studio that I opened about 13 years ago here in North Carolina.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even this lady, Perin Jasumani, she also teaches yoga.
Where is she?
In
Toronto, Barbara.
Toronto.
Toronto. Yes. Hey, nice to see you.
Nice
Very
to see
nice
you
to
also.
see you. Very nice to see you both. Love to hear your story.
I love
Yes,
that we're getting
thank you.
together this way. This is just so lovely to have
Oh,
Baba
amazing.
friends.
It's
And,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't think, 5 years ago we would have done this. So it's really kind of one of the marks of our time that we naturally take to going online and talking to each other as though we're in the same room.
right. Okay, time, folks. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
5:30. Let's start. Janice, do the honors, please.
Jai Meher Baba. Beloved God, help us all to love you more and more, and more and more, and still yet more, till we become worthy of union with you. And help us all to hold fast to Baba's Dhamma till the very end. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Jai Baba, everybody. Welcome to this evening's show or program. A little earlier, Jay just asked me what the weather was like, and I wanted to tell him that it was snowing here. It is. Well, at the onset, I'd like to invite one and only Meher Baba to please come over and join us for this meeting. Not only join us, but to take over the goings on of this meeting completely and let everyone speak whatever he wishes to speak, whatever he wants us to speak. Today we have with us a lovely couple, Barbara and Jay Shauer, and from the little that I spoke with Jay last time, what he told me was that when they were in Merazad with Eraj told them to narrate their experiences and how they came to Baba and share it with whosoever that asked. And that's what brings them here today. What I like about them is there was no fuss, there was no and all that. They just gladly accepted, and here we are. So go ahead and shake a leg.
Jay, did you want to begin?
Well, I'll start if that's okay. And I just want to say thank you very much to everyone in the group. Sam has been very kind to introduce us, and Janice has taken care of trying to make us sound okay. And if we don't sound good, somebody just wave and let me know what's going on. Barbara and I are from Asheville, North Carolina, which is about 400 kilometers from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And it is a mountain town, and there are many Meher Baba lovers in this town. And we are just Americans, and we came to Baba in an American way. And when we tell our story, it seems to me that everybody has a very similar story, no matter where they are from, no matter what their history is. The story of coming to Baba is always the same. It's some wonderful moment. And we had some wonderful moment coming to Baba. And as Sam said, when we told our story in Mandalay Hall, Erich came to me and said, "You must tell your story to anyone who asks." And so I said, okay. And so I have to tell it, but it's long. And so I always warn someone, don't ask unless you have a long time, because we will take a long time to tell the story. And my story begins after Barbara's. Actually, Barbara's story is the first part of the story. Barbara has an interesting experience from when she was a little kid.
Actually, I'm going to weave that in later on because it explains
Okay.
something special. So if you would like to just
Okay.
dive in, I think that's
Well, all right. So I first heard Meher Baba's name when somebody showed me the album cover to the album Tommy by The Who. And I was in high school and I was a know-it-all. I know everything. Anything I didn't know, I would just make up. I was such a know-it-all, and I knew about music. And somebody brought me the album cover and said, they say, here's Peter Townsend guitar and Keith Moon drums and Meher Baba avatar. What's the avatar? And I said, it's a kind of a drum.
Mr. No, yeah.
And as it turned out, I had just gotten a job in New York City for a summer job, and I stopped by a bookstore and I saw a copy of Bhagavad-Gita, the Song of God translation, and I picked it up and looked at it. I thought it had an interesting title. I'd never heard of it before. And I start leafing through, and it talks about the avatar. The avatar is an incarnation of God. And I said, I thought it was a drum. I didn't know. And so that was my first introduction, that Meher Baba was an avatar of God. I used to do a lot of searching in different spiritual paths. And particularly after I met Barbara in college, and after we got married, we moved to Washington, D.C. And I lived with a bunch of Sikhs in a Sikh ashram. We started doing yoga in a Sikh ashram. Then we moved to North Carolina. We lived in a Sikh ashram for a while. And Barbara was working for the parapsychology lab in Durham, North Carolina. Have you heard about this place? This is where they started studying ESP. And one day, and I had been following the teachings of Yogi Bhajan, and I'd become friends with Baba Ram Das, Richard Alpert, and a bunch of other things. But she got this flyer in the mail, and it was from some Indian guru, and he was having a meeting at a camp in the next state. And she said, no one's going to be there. Nobody from South Carolina is going to go see an Indian guru. He will be all alone, and we should go and keep him company.
Wow.
So we jumped in the car and went to this place, and that's where I met Swami Muktananda. And Swami Muktananda became my guru, and my life was taken over by Swami Muktananda. And after that moment of meeting him, everything changed for me in a big way. I was very flaky and casual. I didn't pay attention to my responsibilities. And Muktananda, through his spiritual intervention, just like did stuff to me. He would make me go places or meet people or run into things that would force me to change who I was. And I didn't like it, but it happened. And I slowly became a better person. And we had a child, and I was working for a publisher in California. We moved to California. I was working for a publisher that was owned by IBM. All this makes sense later. I'm sorry, but it all makes sense later. So I'm working for a publisher in IBM, and they decided that I was a good guy and they wanted to make me a part of the management process. So they sent me to become a salesman in Georgia, miles away from all our friends. Oh, I should mention Jerry. I didn't mention Jerry. I'm sorry, it's early for me. I haven't had enough coffee yet. Hang on a second, let me get more coffee. Hang on.
Wait a minute, I thought people in Asheville drink beer in the morning.
Yeah, no, we wait till at least 9 o'clock. That would be in another hour. At one point, after meeting Muktananda, Barbara and I did some separate things. We sort of separated for several months. And during that time, I became a summer stock actor. I became an actor in a musical theater. And I used to be a good musical actor. And at this musical theater, I met a man named Jerry Hodgen. And Jerry was a follower, very strong lover of Meher Baba. And he and I talked to each other because he had a spiritual master and I had a spiritual master, and we were both on a similar spiritual journey. And Jerry started giving me books about Meher Baba, and I would give him books about Swami Muktananda, and we would read each other's books and we would talk. And our conversations went something like this. We would say, geez, I don't know what to make of what the marriage is about. I don't know. And then Jerry would say, well, my master says that marriage is, we talk, and I'd say, well, my master says this, but we didn't use the word master because both Muktananda and Meher Baba are called Baba by their followers. So our conversations went like this. Well, my Baba says marriage is do. And I would say, well, my Baba says da. And then after we talked and back and forth, we would agree that our Babas were saying very similar things. And our talks would go, my Baba says, oh, well, my Baba says, like that. And I read a lot of stuff about Meher Baba, and I took it in, and I really enjoyed reading Listen Humanity, which talked about people meeting Baba at the, I think it was the Mensa Havas. It was a very nice book, and I remembered that book very much. And then when this all led to me becoming this person working for the publisher, we moved to Georgia. Well, and wait a minute, we were in California. For some reason or other, we moved to California, and Swami Muktananda moved to California. So I was constantly going to see Swami Muktananda, and every time I saw him, I felt funny. I went to see him because he had powers. He would give people experiences. And I loved that. I wanted experiences. I wanted colors and lights and all these things, visions. And he used to give those to his disciples. All the stuff that Baba says you shouldn't want, I wanted it. And I loved it. And Muktananda would give it to me. And so I followed him really hard, quite a lot. And then we moved to Georgia, and I started to become what's called a traveling salesman. I don't know if that's the term they use in India, but I would hop in a car every Monday. I would drive to places where I had to sell stuff. And then finally, Friday night, I would come home. Every week I was away, and Barbara was in a town she didn't know with a new kid, a new 2-year-old baby. And I'm going to turn it over to her because that's when things got interesting for us.
Oh, okay. Let me jump to that.
Oh no, but maybe you want to tell something early. You want to tell how
Well,
you want to tell how you heard about Baba?
well, I heard about Baba from Jay. Even though he was just randomly collecting spiritual just knickknacks along the way, just everything about everybody and sort of tucking it away in his mind. He had a piece of information that turned my life upside down. So Jay and I first met in the 1960s. We were at college together. We married and we lived in Washington, D.C. And we would go out in the evenings to dinner, and then usually we would follow dinner by going to a bookstore. It was just our form of amusement, was to visit lots and lots of bookstores. So one Saturday afternoon, we were at a bookstore in Georgetown called the Yes Bookstore. It had a cafe. It had a wonderful collection of very esoteric and interesting books. Everybody was getting interested in doing things in the old-fashioned way. So there were books about making butter and weaving and meditating, and books about mysticism and the saints and that kind of thing. And I loved it all. It was interesting. But as we were leaving there, I turned around in the doorway and I said to Jay, I love all these fields of interest, meditation, prayer, the Buddha, mystical Christianity, and all of it, but I haven't found the one thing that is mine, the thing I can really devote my whole life to, and I'm looking for that. And so Jay just immediately said, oh, you want to know about Meher Baba. He said he was the avatar, and all you need to do is love him. So if you had seen us standing in the doorway, you would have seen me just say to him, would you please say that again?
And now you're frozen.
But what happened inside me since, and it was
Wait a minute, Barbara, you froze up. You froze up for like 40 seconds.
Okay. I know this is a bad connection here. I need my own broadcast tower.
That's okay.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard from the beginning that Jay said those words.
You told me to repeat.
I told you to say it again. So when he said it the first time, it was like a little bell, like a very charming little bell in the distance started to ring. And I could hear the sound of it. It was very attractive. And I realized how much I liked that message that I had just received, that Meher Baba is the avatar and all you need to do is love him. And then it felt like the ringing of this bell got deeper and louder, and that the words became immense. They were such simple words, and it was like they suddenly took form, and they were like Stonehenge monuments. I could walk around them. They were gigantic. And as I looked at them from all sides, I felt this immediate sense of relief, that there was something complete and total about God, and it interfaced with us, and it was all that we really needed. I walked around those words in my mind and in my heart, and I felt that Baba and I thought the same way about life, that we are here to love God. That's it. And that it shows up in a variety and nuanced way, but it is always the same thing, that we're here to love God. And I felt a kinship with Baba. And I also felt that he knew that I felt that way, which was very interesting. There were these layers of it. And I knew he knew that he had sent me the perfect message. So when these words sounded and they became so genuine and real to me and true, I felt this rush of gratitude that Baba had distilled everything in such a way that those words spoke with absolute certainty. And that I felt that he had cleared the way, that he, by expressing those words in such a perfect and full way, made it possible for us to encounter him and the words that I had received, and receive the benefit of the work that he had done to send that message. So as I was listening, I felt like I was seeing a bridge of light that Baba had created with every action in his life, that he had made something stupendous and that he wanted me to see it. It was like an artist showing me his best work, like, look at this, appreciate it. I did everything. And I said internally to him, you did all the work. All we have to do is use what you've done for us. We just have to step onto this bridge and we'll be, we will be with you. We will do the thing that we've actually most longed to do. And I couldn't understand how he knew that about me, that I would be pleased by that. But one of the little secret clues to how I felt about this that I was carrying around was that when I did encounter the thing that meant the most to me that I would do, I had to know that it included everybody, that everybody would have an opportunity to partake of it, that you didn't have to be smart or spiritually adept or particularly good, but whatever it was so inclusive that nobody could be left out. And I felt that that's what Baba had done. Apparently, with full intention, he had made a way for all of us to find him and to love God. So as I realized that, I sensed that if I had tried to do it for myself, that every action I would take, every thought that I would ever think through to its conclusion, everything that I could manage on my own was already included in this. And it was like tangents that led to a single point. And I wasn't expecting it to be a person. I was expecting it to be sort of a philosophy or a way of life. And it turns out that this one person is the epicenter of all of that. And everything that I might have done would have led to him. So then I turned to Jay and I said, I mean, all of this was going on in my mind. And the thing with Baba and me is that there are these long spans of time where it looks like nothing from the outside, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden there's like 30 seconds where something happens and suddenly everything is different. So I turned to Jay and said, would you please say those words again? And when he did, I felt that Baba was present there. I felt that he was standing with us and listening, and he wanted to know my answer. So I said to him, yes, yes, yes. Meher Baba, whoever you are, I will always love you. You can rely on my love. And I asked Jay, could we go and see this person? And he said, no, unfortunately, he died 2 or 3 years ago. And I went, well, that doesn't really matter because he's alive. He's really here. And there was this little kind of concern that I had. I didn't regard Baba as gone. I regarded him as absolutely real and available in the world. And I thought, ooh, why is he telling people he's God? That always ends badly. Whenever somebody does that, they're in danger. People don't like to hear that. But I sort of thought, well, he might have had a reason for it. And I started to go through all the reasons that he might have said that he was God. Maybe he wants to have us think in a new way, or maybe it never occurred to me that he was actually just telling the truth. But it always seemed like he was trying to accomplish something by saying the words. And I couldn't make sense of it, but I knew that I loved him. And I also knew that I was very charmed that we had the same name. Because even though my name is Barbara, formally, my family from the day I was born has always called me Baba. And I've always loved that name because it's just full of family affection. And I remember learning to write that word because my mother wouldn't teach me to write before I went to school, but she would teach me to write my name. And I just remember writing Baba on everything, thinking this is the most beautiful name in the whole world. So I already knew that part. So anyway, we walked out of the Yes bookstore with me saying yes. So that was in Washington early on. And did you want to pick it up there, Jay, to where we were?
Sure. Sure. And you met a Baba lover who became your good friend when we were living in California. And we spent time in California, and then this move happened with my company, the IBM company, and we moved, and I became a traveling salesman, and life got hard for Barbara. Actually, for Barbara had a hard time. I had a hard time learning how to be on the road. I was not living well. I was unhappy. I was miserable. And I would read my Muktananda books to cheer myself up. And how I would read these books is I would just take one and throw it on the ground, and whatever page it opened to, that was my message from Muktananda. And I got a lot of messages from Muktananda from this, and I was feeling miserable. And he was saying, well, the problem is you need to love your master. You need to love your master. Love is the thing you need to do. And I'm going like, no, I want to know more about how I get lights and colors and I don't have to feel so bad. I want you to give me more nice experiences. I want a vision of a nice place. And you're telling me I have to love my master. I don't like that. So that was what I was seeing from Muktananda all the time. While Barbara was doing stuff, she was getting sick. The living in a new place, we put our child in a nursery school, and Annika, our daughter, would go to the nursery school and come home sick. And then Barbara would get sick. And then I'd come back from my trip and Barbara would be sick and miserable because she'd been taking care of this sick kid. And I would go, now you need to be the perfect wife for me and make everything good because I'm miserable too. And we got more and more and more miserable. It was a very hard time. And Barbara, I think this is where your medical stuff comes in.
Our daughter would get sick with the typical childhood things. And so she would go to the little nursery school on Monday, and by Wednesday, she would be terrifically sick. And by Thursday, I would have it. And then Jay would come home from traveling and he would fall sick with whatever it was. It was just like a whole winter of sickness. And then finally, by the spring, I was utterly exhausted and isolated and lonely. I mean, really, I was home with a little 2-year-old in a place I knew nobody. And I would say to Jay, if we could just meet Baba lovers, I think we would have friends. And I had known, I guess, one Baba lover in California, Kathy Pither, who had a picture of Baba in her back hallway, and I would pass by it when we lived in California. And oddly enough, it didn't seem odd to me at the time, but I look back and think, I don't usually do that kind of thing. I would never pass by Baba's picture without talking to him. We'd be walking with our little kids out in the backyard to play. And as I passed by Baba's picture, and I always look into the picture and check in with him and say, how are you? Just like converse with him on the way out back. And, you know, I don't do that ordinarily with other pictures. It didn't strike me as at all out of the ordinary to do that kind of thing. But anyway, once we were in Georgia, just the heaviness of what we were going through really affected me. And I began to not just get sick and exhausted, but fall sick in unusual ways.
Can I butt in here for a second and emphasize a point you said that I'd like to just make sure people realize? We couldn't find friends where we moved. We were talking to people from a different area of the country. They didn't think like us. They didn't talk like us. They didn't dress like us. We didn't find friends. And we both remembered that we had nice friends who happened to love Meher Baba. Now, the people around Muktananda, the Muktananda followers, are terrible people. I was one of those people. I didn't like them. I didn't like them at all. And Barbara said, well, didn't you have a friend that liked Meher Baba? And he was nice. And I said, yeah, and you had a friend who liked Meher Baba, and she was nice. And we thought, if we could find where the Meher Baba people are in Atlanta, maybe we'd find nice people and they'd be nice to us. So we started looking around and we couldn't find them. We
And
couldn't
actually,
find it.
I had a casual friend there, Nancy, I forget her last name at the moment, but her brother was a Baba lover, and she knew I was looking for Baba. And we would go to bookstores there and health food stores and say, is there a Meher Baba group? Just knowing that if there was, they would probably have been, buying yogurt and reading spiritual books and that kind of thing. And people would say, ooh, there used to be a group and they disbanded. We don't know where they are. So Jay heard about the brother of this friend who loved Baba. And she, my friend Nancy, was having a party at her house and her brother was invited. She was very excited that I would get to meet a Baba lover. So we went to the party. I mean, I pulled myself together and we went to the party and we're socializing. And Nancy said, oh, there's my brother Peter across the room. Let me introduce you. And she brought us together. And I said to Peter, so you love Meher Baba? And he said, yeah. And he turned around, walked up, and he wouldn't talk to me for the rest of the night. And I think it was because she was on a different spiritual path and he thought I was going to maybe argue with him or try to chip away at Baba or something, but he just froze over and turned away. And so at the end of the evening, when we walked out to the car, Jay said, so you got to meet somebody who knows about Meher Baba? And I said, yeah. And it was very sneaky of Baba. He's trying to throw bad disciples in my way, as if that's going to drive me off the path. I'm going to find him. I'm going to find him. And this poor fellow, years later, when he realized how much more just difficulty I had to go through before, the conclusion of my search for Baba, and that he could have shortened it by just talking to me. He was mortified, and he's never stopped being sorry for the way that he reacted that night. But it was just how it was to be. But in any case, the difficulties went on for a while more, and finally, I was going to emergency rooms and doctors because I kept having panic attacks, and nobody had a word for them. Everybody
Barbara,
thought
you gotta say the word again. Panic
panic
attack.
attack. It's
Anxiety attack.
anxiety disorder, and everything was said.
When Barbara had panic attacks, she'd be feeling terrible, weird sensations, and we would go to the hospital, to an emergency room. And
because it felt like a heart attack, or nobody could figure out what it was. So it went on and on. People were trying to define it medically, and it was just overwhelming. And my life began to shrink so that I was basically stuck at home, and even at home in my own room. Everything became so fraught with anxiety for me that my life became this little tiny spot on the face of the earth, where the only place that I felt safe. And it began to interfere with Jay's work. So his boss said, well, we're going to send you to the renowned teaching hospital at Emory University, and there's a guy there who's good at diagnosis, and he'll be able to tell you what's wrong. And so we ended up in this doctor's office with me weeping and crying, saying, don't take another blood sample. I know what it is. I'm just lonely and sad, and I'm in a foreign place to me, and I just haven't done this very well, and it's affecting me deeply. And he felt so sorry for me, so sympathetic. And especially when he said, well, why don't you just make some friends? And I said, well, to me, a friend is a soul revealed in the light of God's grace. I mean, it's just somebody with whom you have something immense and really heartfelt in common, and I haven't found those people. And he was so touched by the way I described a friend that he said, meet me in my office. So we went down there, Jay and our daughter Annika and I, and we met with him. And I thought he was going to say, well, you're doing everything wrong. Why don't you just take up running and go vegetarian and, clean up your life and that kind of thing. And instead, he did the thing I least expected. He turned to Jay and said, look what you've done. Look what you've done by the way that you live. Look at her. she's not really sick today, but she's going to be sick unless you change your life. And Jay sat bolt upright and said, well, I will. And this doctor said, well, that's not good enough. I need to know right now, before I send you out of my office, what you are going to do, what steps you're going to take so that your lives are not stressed like this. And Jay said, I will get a different job. And the doctor said, will you do that? And so Jay called his boss.
Okay, so let me just sort of describe my situation. Is I've become less and less of the hippie that I was when I met Muktananda. I was a real hippie. And now I was working for IBM and wearing a three-piece suit and a sincere tie, but underneath I had a mala, and I would say my prayers and things like that. I had my Dharma name, Hari Das. I thought, and every day I would meditate on Muktananda and read these books. And I was just horribly depressed and upset by what had happened to Barbara and to our lives together and how horrible it was. And I was constantly praying to Muktananda to fix things. Please fix my life. Please make it different. And I got no response. I got no response, just nothing. And when I heard this stuff from the doctor, I called up my boss, who was very nice, and I said, this is what's going on. My wife is very sick, and I'm going to make her sicker unless I get a different job where I don't have to be driving around all the time. It has to be, I have to have a job in an office. And he said, let me look into it. Now, IBM at that point was having some financial changes, and there was a hiring freeze. They could not hire anybody new. So my boss is trying to figure out how to find me a job in IBM in Atlanta. And everybody he talks to says, we can't do it. But he was persistent, and somehow or other, people would say, well, maybe we can do something. He would persuade them. And he called me and said, well, it looks like there is a job that you could do in Atlanta. You were an editor and you know about technical editing, and there's a job for a technical editor in Atlanta IBM office. So I've arranged for you to talk to somebody. And I was so happy. And about this time, the interview that I was to have was a couple of days away. And during those couple of days, every time I threw the book on the floor and read what Muktananda had to say, it was always a similar message. He was saying, you have to trust and love your master and not think about anything else except loving your master. And then it would say, think of how Mayor Baba loved his master. And what? And every time for about 2 or 3 days, when I would open up a Muktananda book, Muktananda would talk about Mayor Baba's love for his master. And I later found out that Mayor Baba and Muktananda had some history together, that Mayor Baba had in Shirdi, that the Kandava temple, that's where Muktananda got his robes when he was a little kid. They crossed paths at the Kandava temple in Shirdi. And anyway, so I was surprised by this because I went, yeah, I know about Mayor Baba. I don't like Mayor Baba. Mayor Baba's not my guy, Muktananda. Muktananda, but you are my guy. I do not want to hear about other guys. I only want to hear about you. And as things went on, I went to see this this job opening. I talked to the woman who had the job. She was very nice. She was very nice. And before I went, she called me and said, you don't have to come in for this interview because we thought we had a job for you, but now there is a hiring freeze again. So there is no job. But even so, I would like to talk to you. So I said, okay. And I felt bad. Now, let me tell you about Atlanta IBM. Atlanta's big city. Atlanta is built on a river. And this IBM office building is built with a bridge from the parking lot to the office building. The bridge goes over the river. When you walk into the building, you must cross the bridge over the roaring river below. And you go into the office building, and it is a giant atrium, a huge room, and it's just big. And then when you go, then you find some chairs, and the chairs have been made so that they are too big for people. You sit in the chair and your arms are on the armrests like this, and you feel like a 4-year-old kid in a grown-up's chair, and you're looking around at the big office, and it's very sort of scary, and you don't know what's going on. And then the nice person you're visiting from IBM comes out and takes your hand. You go, "Oh, thank you. It's so nice to meet you. Oh, ah." And then they walk you through, but you have been completely intimidated and awed by the office building that they set up for you. So I went down and talked to this woman, and she said, "Well, here's what." While we're walking, she says, "Oh, there is a job opening now. So we have the job opening." I'm going, "Oh, great. Fantastic." And we get to her office, and I talk to her for like 20 minutes, and we love each other. We are getting along perfectly. It is great. And she says to me, "Well, I can't offer you the job, but would you like to meet the people you'll be working with?" I went, "Oh, she's saying I'm going to get a job. This is great." So we got up and we started to walk around, and she introduced me to other people in the office where I would be. And one of these persons was a woman, and I walked in and she looked kind of odd, but she said she looked troubled.
Frazzled. You said she looked frazzled.
Frazzled.
She hadn't slept in a week, it turns out.
Yeah. She I meet this woman, and she says, the boss says to me, "This is Ann Giles, and we just hired her from your division in Chicago. So maybe you two know each other." And we didn't know each other. I said, "Hello." And she says, "And Ann is going to show us slides of her trips to India. And we're going to all have lunch." She's brought her slide projector in, and we're going to eat lunch and watch these slides. Would you like to join us for lunch and to watch these slides? I said, "Yes, that would be good. Thank you." And I turned to Ann and I said, "Where did you go in India?" She says, "Well, outside of Bombay." Well, Muktananda's place was outside of Bombay. I go, "Oh my gosh, maybe this is a Muktananda person." And I said, "Where did you go outside of Bombay?" And she didn't say Ganeshpur. She said, "Outside of Pune." Oh, Pune. I've heard of that. "Where outside of Pune?" She says, "A place called Ahmednagar." And it just bing. I said, "Ahmednagar? I hope you got to the," actually she said Pune. I said, did you go to Ahmednagar?" She says, "Well, what's in Ahmednagar?" I said, "Isn't that where Mayor Baba is buried?" And I just thought it must be a place where thousands of people go every day, but no, it's not. But I said, "Isn't that where Mayor Baba is buried, in Mehrabad?" And she said, "How do you know this? Who are you?" And she said, "I'm just a guy. I read some books." And so we went into the conference room where they were serving sandwiches, and we started eating sandwiches. And
So the answer to that question that you asked her also was yes, she did get to Meherazad and Meherabad. And that's,
yeah.
she did.
Oh, I'm sorry. I actually tell this the exact way it happened. I remember the exact words. She said, I was outside of Pune. I said, where? She said, Ahmednagar. I said, Ahmednagar, did you get to Meherabad?
Yeah.
Because I remembered the name, and that shocked her. Says, how do you know about Meherabad? I said, isn't that where Meher Baba is buried? And she looked at me and said, who are you? Anyway, in this conference room, she started showing slides, and she started showing slides of the mosque where Meher Baba ended the new life. All these people in suits who were sitting around the table eating sandwiches thought they were going to see pictures of the Taj Mahal. And what Ann Giles was showing was all the little places around Maharashtra connected to Meher Baba. And they were totally confused. They had no idea what was going on, but I was interested. I loved seeing about these places. I loved seeing the mosque. She had a picture of the rafter where the bird was, where Erich crawled up and got the bird. And she's telling the story, and then he took the bird and brought it down, and Baba was clapping his hands and lighting matches so he could see what Baba was saying. And the people in the room are going, what? What is that all about? But when we got done, I said to Anne, is there a Meher Baba group in Atlanta? And she said, you know, there used to be, and then it sort of broke up, but on Saturday, we are opening up a new Meher Baba room in Atlanta.
Wow.
This Saturday. And I said, can I come? Of course you can come. So I went home very happy. I had a job. We found the Meher Baba group. And I told Barbara, job, and I found the Meher Baba group, and we were very pleased. And on that Saturday, Barbara will tell you, she started baking cookies for the Meher Baba group.
So Anne was in a very fragile condition when Jay met her. He described her as frazzled and bleary-eyed. She had just come back from Meherabad to Atlanta like the week before, and she knew on the airplane, she got this kind of internal prompt that she was going to have to show pictures of her trip to the IBM executives. Actually, it wasn't on the airplane. It was when she got back, somebody said, show us pictures of your trip. And she thought, they don't want to see this. But she also knew that she had been put in a position, so she went home every night and had insomnia. She hadn't slept for an entire week. She was lying there in a cold sweat thinking, I don't want to show IBM executives pictures of the places that are dear to me. They won't get it, and it will just seem odd to them. And what do you know? She starts off.
She heard a voice saying, if you show your pictures, I will let you sleep.
Yeah, like it was that rough. So she showed the pictures, and she apparently got to sleep again. Anyway, over the years that Jay had been following Muktananda, I loved Muktananda and respected him. And I knew that he was doing really good things for Jay, but he wasn't my guru. And I knew that. And I knew you can't just say, oh, you're my guru in truth. And it's a really wrong situation in which to tell a lie or make something up to your own liking. So every once in a while, I wish Jay and I were on the same spiritual path. And he was the one who told me about Baba. And I loved Baba. And so I would say to Jay every once in a while, do you think Meher Baba could be who he said he was? Do you think he's the avatar? Do you think he could be God? And Jay would say, no. And I'd say, well, why not? And he would just come up with different reasons. So one of them was because Baba had a car accident, two of them actually, and was very injured, and his suffering showed. And when Jay said that, I mean, that was the end of the issue for him. But as soon as he said those words, I could just feel this kind of gripping around my heart, like, oh, that's God. That's what God does. God suffers like that. That's not personal suffering. That's suffering for everybody. I know that suffering. And then I'd say another day, I would come at it again and say, do you think it's possible? Because we could both follow Meher Baba. And Jay would say, no, because Meher Baba kept silence. And he said that he would break his silence, and he didn't. And I'd think, oh, that's God, because that's mysterious. And God is mysterious, and God does things at the precise, perfect time, and not when we've been told to expect it. It's just in his hands. And so that's definitely God. Anyway, there would be these interactions between us where I would try to kind of pull us onto the same set of tracks, and Jay was a great devotee, a really good disciple to Muktananda. Totally loved him. And
I think we need to get to, I don't know, we're stopping, we're frozen. Are we frozen? Hello?
disciplined about it, and
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't in it. So anyway, when Jay came home and said, we found the Meher Baba group, I was delighted. This was like a Wednesday, I think, that you were at IBM, and by Saturday they were opening their group again. And so we went down earlier in the day to visit and see where it was so we would know. And when we turned around and went back home again, I just started baking. It was my way of kind of expressing love and joy at having find them. That we just baked things and brought them along to the meeting that night. So at that meeting, it was a very sweet and lively scene. Charles Haynes was going to talk. It was his last talk in Atlanta before leaving to go up to Harvard. And it was a really special occasion. So we walked into the room, and there were all these people I'd never met, but I immediately felt that I knew them, and we were at home. And Jay said to me, look over in that little easy chair, they've put Baba's sadra. Baba's sadra is his blouse. And sure enough, it was in a lucite box in the back of the chair, like Baba was sitting there. And I thought, that's adorable. So I walked up to it to look at it more closely. And as I bent down to look at Baba's sadra, these waves of just cosmic energy, I would have to describe it as, hit me. And I realized that without a doubt, the person who had worn that shirt was God. And that it was the same fabric, the same shirt that healed the woman in the gospel, that I could suspend my entire life in complete confidence from a single thread of that shirt, that the person who had worn it was everything, the embodiment of just all good, all health, all happiness, that it was totally the shirt of the avatar. And it was an overwhelming experience. I mean, as I realized that Baba was exactly who he said he was, that was his garment, and the energy and light of his being was still in it. I was just internally shaking my head thinking, I just didn't know. I mean, if I had really known, if I had made the connections, I would have loved him before now. But as it is, this is God's shirt, and I just didn't know. And as I was standing there looking at it, I could feel my conscious mind blinking out, like flying over a landscape where all of the city lights are being shut off. It was everything in my sort of personal limited mind was just going blink, 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 shutting down. And the last thing that I thought wasn't my own thought, it was just an announcement in my mind. This is kindness. I mean, I could feel the whole universe around me, and that everything in the universe depended on the reality of Baba, that was the basic truth of everything. And it was just this stupefying thought. And meanwhile, I'm standing in a room looking at a shirt. I mean, that's the visual thing, is that this is taking place inside like 10 seconds. I'm looking at the shirt, and I began to sort of come out of that total immersion in wonder and being awestruck. And I could see the shirt again, and see, feel the world sort of assembling around again. And my first conscious thought was, oh, I wish I had seen him wear it. And So I began to imagine that if I had, that it would have had the seams over his shoulders and the little placket on his chest with the little cloth button. And I noticed this beautiful little line of stitches in the back of the shirt that just broke my heart. It was so tender and so sweet that he would have worn something to the point of it falling apart and somebody came along and stitched it together again. It just got me. But as I was looking at it, thinking of how it would look for him to wear it, it began to move like somebody was breathing. And I realized that my imagination is not that good. Somebody else was showing me a way to imagine even better. And it was Baba. I mean, Baba was actually sitting there wearing the shirt. And that's why it was moving. He was there. And he was there and was delighted. He was wriggling with joy and making that symbol that we all know with his hand going, I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased with the way you love me. And I'd never heard anything that made me as happy as that. I was elated that he had felt my love, that it had gotten through to him and that he knew that I loved him. It just lifted me up. I could feel my heart soaring. And at the same time, all of a sudden, there was like this dark hook that latched onto my heart. And this thought passed through, you didn't love him very much. You loved him whenever it was convenient. You loved him whenever you happened to walk past a picture. You did not really love him. You loved him crumbs. It was not everything. You just gave him whatever was left over. And I felt horrible about that Baba, who deserved to be loved the way that he does, got such thoughtlessness from me, and I felt crushed by it. And he was seeing me go through this, and immediately he did this thing like this, like he was a film editor, and he just cut out the bad part and spliced together the film. He said, that doesn't matter. What matters is that you love me. Everything else is just a side issue. This is the real stuff, that you love me like this. So when I saw him do that, first of all, I was just stunned that he could. I mean, that he could take a story that had happened in somebody's life and remake it quickly to his own liking and to something that was better for me. But when I saw that he did that, I felt soothed. I described it to myself as I felt a balm from my heart, that it healed my heart immediately. And once I felt that, I thought, oh, I want balm for Baba's heart too, because he's the one who didn't get loved really well. And I said to him, now that you've shown me what makes you happy, I do know how to do that. And that's what I will be doing. I'm going to be loving you. I'm going to be loving you with all my heart from now on. And Baba was very, very pleased by that. And at that moment, I could hear people again in the room, and the room sort of took on a more vivid presence. And we all sat down and began to listen to Charles's talk. And when we did, and I was sitting against the back wall, I knew that this was what I'd wanted all my life. I heard in the distance this river, this current of the stories of God's love for us and humans loving God. And I always wanted to be in that river. And I felt like I had been running along the banks of that river, dying of thirst, just parched all my life, hoping that a single drop of it would fall on me. And that night, just the river overflowed. And me and everybody in that room were caught up in the current. And I realized that that's what Baba has done. He has just overflowed the banks with grace and his love and generosity. And there's no question of it that all of us who have heard about him, all of us who have even tried to love him, are being carried along in that current. And that current, that river, is really him. There's no way to be left on the riverbank anymore. That if you know about him, if you've heard his name, if you've ever even thought, oh, I wish I could tonight, Jay said, oh, did you see the Sadra? And I went, oh, Yes. And I didn't know that you could actually describe what had happened there between me and Baba. I had no idea there could be words for it. So I just said, oh yes, that was really lovely. And I carried that story around inside myself until a long time later. Parts of it took many, many years to even begin to put into words and tell. But that was the beginning of our external and kind of lifelong love of Baba at that point, except not for Day, actually, because
What Barbara is not saying out loud is she didn't tell me about this
I didn't.
for about 6 years.
Oh,
And I'm 6 years later and going, what? You had all this stuff happen? When did that happen? I had no idea. Now I'm going to tell my part of this interesting story. When I was there, I met a fellow named Charlie Gardner. Some of you may know Charlie Gardner. He's from Georgia. While I was at this meeting, he and I were sitting next to the kids area because he had a couple of kids and I had my daughter. And we started to chat and he found out that I knew Jerry Hodgen. And I said, yeah, but I don't know what happened to him. And he says, well, Jerry and I bought a farm together. And just a couple of weeks ago, we sold the farm and now he's gone away to teach at Clemson University, which was about an hour's drive away from Atlanta. And I got his phone number. I got Jerry's phone number. We hadn't had much contact for 3 or 4 years. And when we drove home, Barbara put my daughter to bed and I got on the phone with Jerry Hodgen, the guy who had told me about Baba back when I was an actor in summer stock theater. And our conversation was interesting. Jerry was so surprised. I talked to him, hi Jerry, he says, Jay, I just got back from India and I couldn't believe it. I was at Mayor Baba's tomb when you walked in.
what?
That's what I said. What? He said, yes, you walked in. I was sitting at Mayor Baba's tomb and then you came in. And I jumped up and said, hi, Jay. And I gave you a big hug. And I stepped back and it wasn't you. It was some guy named Robert who looked just like you. And I said, oh, you look like a friend of mine who is a follower of Swami Muktananda. And he says, I'm a follower. Robert says, I'm a follower of Swami Muktananda. And Swami Muktananda sent me here to Mayor Baba's tomb. So Jerry's going, everybody like that. And so Jerry decided to take Robert to visit Meherazad. It was a Meherazad day and Jerry had not gone to Meherazad, but they jumped in a rickshaw and they went over to Meherazad and Jerry introduced Robert to Erich. And Erich got the story that when Robert first arrived in India to see Muktananda, the first thing that Muktananda said to him was, you must visit the tomb of the Avatar. And Robert didn't know what that meant. So Robert went around and talked to some of Muktananda's disciples and they said, when Muktananda speaks of the Avatar, he is speaking of Meher Baba. And here is how you get to Ahmednagar, and here's how you will find Meherabad. And they gave him all these instructions. Robert was supposed to be in India for 2 weeks, and Robert just didn't go to Meherabad. And then like 2 days before he's supposed to go, he goes, oh, wait a minute, Muktananda told me to do something. I should go to Meherabad. He jumped on a bus and he showed up at Mayor Baba's tomb. And so Erich naturally is interested in all this and is questioning him and stuff like that. But after a while, Robert doesn't have anything more to say. So Erich starts talking to other people and it's just, you know how Mandalay Hall can be. It's just quiet. And kind of boring, but a lot of fun. You're just sitting there. And Robert is not happy. Robert has come from Muktananda's ashram. And in Muktananda's ashram and in Muktananda's habits, he is always doing something on schedule. There is a schedule for everything. If you meditate, Muktananda turns on a little cooking timer that goes tick, 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 bing. And it says bing, and you stop meditating. You stand up and you start walking around. And when it's time for lunch, it's 12 o'clock. Bing, time for lunch. You get your lunch at 12:30, you go away. Everything is on a schedule. And here's Robert going, what's this? What's happening in Mandalay Hall? And Erich notices that he looks kind of troubled. And Robert says, what do you do here? And Erich says, we don't do anything. We just love God. So Robert is uncomfortable, and Erich says, at 2 o'clock, we will all take a hike up Seclusion Hill. And now Robert's happy. Robert's looking at his watch. He's checking his watch against the Mandalay clock. Yep, okay, yep. 2 more hours, okay. 1 more hour, fine. Robert's very happy now. He has something scheduled. So at 2 o'clock, everybody jumps up and they slowly stroll up to Seclusion Hill. And as they're going up to Seclusion Hill, as usually is the case, some of the pilgrims there say, Erich, what did Mayor Baba say about marriage? And Erich would stop and say, well, Baba says, whatever Baba says. And then Erich looked over at Robert and says, what does Muktananda say? And Robert says, well, my Baba says, da 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 da. And Erich says, well, that's very, very much the same, isn't it? And then they go up the hill a little bit more, and one of the pilgrims says something, oh, Erich, what does Baba say about suicide? And Erich says, well, Baba says blah, 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 blah. And then he turns to Robert and says, what does Muktananda say? And Robert says, well, my Baba says, blah, 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 blah. And this goes on. What does Baba say about this? Baba says this. And well, my Baba says. And then at a certain point, they get to the top of the hill, and some pilgrim says, oh, Baba, what, Erich, what does Baba say about enlightenment? And Erich just looks at Robert. And Robert says, well, Baba says, da, 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 da. And then he realizes, I'm not comparing here. I'm saying it just like I know what Mayor Baba says. And Erich is saying, they're just the same. Now, at this point, I was very troubled because I felt like there was all this Mayor Baba stuff in my life. These people showing up, the job showing up, the meetings showing up, all these things. And I didn't want it. And I was saying to Muktananda, I do not want to leave my master. You are my master. I am not ready to leave you. And by this phone call, by Muktananda sending his disciple to Meherabad to meet Jerry, to have Jerry tell me what Erich had said, that they are basically the same. And well, if this is what Barbara wants, I will try to follow Mayor Baba. And we went to a gathering. There was supposed to be a big get together. They called Southeast Gathering. And people from all over Southeast United States came to a camp and stayed there for a weekend and shared stories. So I was meeting all these Mayor Baba people. Ann Giles was there. who I had met at IBM, and she was showing me around, and Charlie Gardner was there and he was showing me around, and Jerry Hodgson had come there too. So all these people that I had met and known became part of my new Baba community. I still felt funny. And they had a kind of a arty service, or I think it was just a morning arty. And Kathy Haas and Rick Flynn were singing a song, "There's a Heartache Following Me." And when I heard one, I'd never heard the song before. Sometimes I say that I'm really happy now. I know it's just a game and the loser's always me. I look around and there's a heartache following me. And I heard those words and I thought, that's how I feel. I feel like I've been playing a game and I'm not admitting that I really love this Baba. And as I thought these thoughts, I had a picture in my head, almost like a dream or a vision. And it was that I was hanging and somebody was holding on to my hands from above. I was hanging over nothingness. And I looked up and it was Muktananda holding on to me over nothing. And then he threw me away. And then I felt my hands grabbed by Mayor Baba, like I was on a trapeze and I'd been tossed. And that was pretty much it for me. That's how I came to Mayor Baba.
So like this was the handing over from one master to the other.
Yeah. Oh, and I should also point out that that job, the whole job interview and everything like that, that went away. They went back to a hiring freeze. I never got that job.
Oh,
That was just a joke of Baba's.
The bait.
so typical.
It is.
This is so nice. You touched our hearts.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
You see, oh, but there's one more thing that we should say. My given name, my good name was John. My
John?
parents named me John, but they didn't ever call me John. They called me Jay. So when Barbara was going to India, I'll just let Barbara tell the story of when she first went to India.
Go ahead, you can tell the story, go ahead.
No,
You're
no.
doing great.
Hold on a minute. I just want to say something. The pair of you and your names is Jay Baba.
Correct.
Yes. So when Barbara
Got that.
when Barbara was going to India, she had a little voice in her head saying, I set this up. This is
No, I should
set
take
up."
over here. I should
Yeah,
take
you do
over
so
here.
good. You do so
That's
good.
that.
Tell
Okay.
the story. This
So
is a
I'm
fun
packing for this first pilgrimage to India because I want to love Baba more. And I told Jay that. I said, we've been to the center. I've seen Baba lovers. I adore them. I'm really happy to know them. They're all soaked in Baba. It's like they are cloth that's been dyed in this vat of love of Baba. And I want that. So let's arrange that. I was remembering this morning, a friend of mine, Maria Mason, who had called Jay a mocker. A makkar is not a M-O-C-K-E-R, but an M-A-C-H-E-R. It's a Yiddish word. It means a guy who makes things happen. So if I would say to Jay, I want to love Baba more, he'd go, here's the thing you do. You go to India. That's where that will take place. So as I was packing to go, I realized what you just realized immediately, that, you know, after all those years around Baba, that our names were combined into Jai Baba. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's a joke. And immediately this little voice said, that's not for you. That's not a joke for you. That's a joke for Mara. You go bring that to Mara. And I didn't know who Mara was. I mean, you know, it's not like the internet age where you could find everything out about everybody all at one time. Even though we'd been going to the center, I knew there were women around Baba, sisters and friends and cousins and all these people, and their names all seemed to start with M. I thought, well, I'll find her. I'm sure I'll find her when I get there. And I did. She invited me to tea, and I knew that was my chance to tell her the joke. And looking into the dining room where we were all going to gather, I chose a place where I'd be close enough to tell her, but not exactly, you know, she'd be at the head of the table and I'd be pretty close by to tell her. And actually, it turned out she was sitting right next to me because the head of the table was always for Baba. So as she was sitting next to me and all this tea time chit chat was going on, I finally turned to her and thought, and I was very shy. I mean, I didn't feel like a genuine Baba lover. I felt like a newcomer, but I just knew that I had this mission to deliver the joke. So I turned to her and I said, oh, Mara, I've been sent here with something for you. It's a joke. And I told her about our names. And she was slightly amused, but it created this like little ripple of conversation around the table. Everybody saying, your name was Baba? Your name was Baba? And I went, yeah. And I felt bad about it because it seemed egotistical. And I felt really like the joke had fallen flat and I hadn't delivered it very well, not as I was expected to. But a few days later, I ran into Dr. Gohair, and she said, oh, Barbara, we have been telling that joke over and over. And every time somebody says Jai Baba, we start to laugh all over again. I thought, well, you know, I didn't have the pleasure of knowing that they thought it was funny until then, but I was really happy that it was well received. It also made me feel like, to arrange that joke of our names, Baba had to be involved in our families, that our parents would meet, that, you know, all of these little pieces would be in place.
There was a hiring freeze at IBM that
I'm just thinking about the name itself, just the combination of names that, you know, he was involved in our families. And I thought he was arranging this little joke for Mara, knowing how sad she would be when he wasn't there in the physical form. He was just arranging this little lightness of the heart for her, that she would have something to giggle over. And I thought, wow, he takes such perfect care of the people who love him, just in ways going back before we even knew about him, that things were being made just ideal for loving him and knowing about him. And even for, you know, someone like Mara having a moment of lightness in her life.
So Sam, I think we should maybe ask if anybody's got any thoughts or questions that they want to share.
Sure. Okay. Anybody has any questions?
Or comments?
Speak up now or hold your peace forever.
Jai Baba Sam uncle.
Haji, Jai Baba.
I just want to say thank you to Jai and Barbara. Jai Baba.
Jai
It was
Baba.
a beautiful, beautiful sharing, which has again taken us a step further to Baba. Baba has his way, and today, honestly, gratitude to both of you. Thank you, Baba.
Jai Baba.
Yeah, but they haven't finished yet. So just don't say, otherwise they'll run away.
Okay, okay.
Do you have any questions for them? Do you want to ask him anything? Jerry, do you want to ask anything?
No, Sam uncle. I just want him to want them both to keep on sharing as much as they have in their pockets.
Jay, you have another gentleman.
Someone's raising a hand.
Sorry? Oh, yeah.
There's
Go ahead, Dilshad.
Jai Baba, this was one of the sweetest sessions. A couple talking about their individual and collective journey. I'm completely floored that this was so beautiful, 1 hour and a half. My question is that do your kids also believe Baba to be avatar, and what has their journey or belief been? Thank you.
Well, we were very much part of the Baba community as our kids were growing up. And our daughter has rejected Mayor Baba completely. Her youngest brother is sort of doesn't like him very much, but the middle brother, Kipper, is a big figure in the Mayor Baba community in Myrtle Beach. He is just he's a big deal. He's very sincere. And the ones who have fallen away from Mayor Baba have both become Quakers. And as my story is, I was a preacher's kid. I've been an Episcopal, a Catholic, a Hindu, a Sikh. I've done all these things. I don't pay any attention to whether my kids are Quakers or say they love Baba or don't love Baba. They've been part of Baba's life, have Baba in their lives. And I'm very comfortable that they are taken care of and loved and that they love him back in their own way.
Jai Baba.
Thank you for your reply. Thank you so very much. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Anybody else? Any questions? Hey.
Yes, I have a little question for Barbara.
Yes.
Barbara, you know what? This is amazing because when you started out, I didn't think I knew both of you. I couldn't remember you anyway. But then right now at the end, you may not be the one in this picture, but I have a picture where Mani, my nephew Minu, myself, and you. I think it's you. It's in the Marazad Manli Hall. Did you have short hair at any time?
Not when I was there, but
Oh, okay. Okay. Then
but let me see your picture anyway.
Over
Oh,
here.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
okay.
It's possible.
Here it is.
Let's see how to make it big. How to make it big. Big, get
I
big.
don't know. I don't know. On your
There it
chat,
is. Try it again. Try it again, please.
right again. I'll show more of her that I think it's her, but maybe not.
I will text you our email address.
Yeah, please send me your email. I will take a good picture and
Ah.
send it to you. But
Okay.
it's amazing.
Mr. Rampuri, you've been quiet all this time. You're
Thank you.
excited.
That's
Thank you, Perry.
Barbara and Jay, thank you very much for sharing your story. I enjoyed it. So the only thing I would have liked you to put is some time frames to it. When was the first time so there were no years. When was the first time you went to Mehrabad? So that would have been nice. But you can still tell that, when were you in Mehrabad for the first time?
It was August and September 1980 for me. And when I was leaving, I told Eric the story. Actually, I told him the story of my encounter with Baba up to the point of seeing Baba's shirt and realizing that he was God. But I didn't tell him beyond that. I didn't tell him about seeing Baba. because I didn't know how to put that into words, and I didn't have a way. So he loved that, I finally divulged that story at the end of my visit. When I first got there, I felt very out of place and happy to be there, but still kind of like I'm not a Baba lover, I'm not a real one. And I was making conversation with Erich and pointed to a picture of Bajit Maharaj and Baba and said, tell me this story, and just kind of making conversation. And he said, I'll tell you sometime. And then finally, the last day of my visit, he told the story because I reminded him that he had promised. And so when he did, I told him my story, and he was especially, I think, touched by Jay's generosity and practicality when I wanted to go to India, and all along that Jay has been supportive of.
Yeah, you just broke up.
It always
Erich
freezes
said,
up
tell
when
Jay
she's
to stay
telling,
out of my mouth. When I got home, was to say to Jay,
when she tells compliments, the Zoom freezes up. I can't hear the compliments.
oh, too bad.
It's way of
It
working.
was that Erich was very affected by you springing into action to send me to India to support and be part of my love of Baba, even when you didn't share it. He was very touched by that, and he wanted to meet you. And he told me to go home and immediately deliver his order and invitation, like, get here as soon as you can.
Oh,
And I
wow.
did. I did. I said, Jay, Erich says you get there. And Jay went, yeah.
So
I know he doesn't do the same
So-
things for himself that he does for other people. So he just like waited until he had to go and take our daughter 4 years later.
And when Barbara was in India, she was still using her maiden name, O'Donnell. But it was common. It was a thing in the United States at that time where women did not take the names of their husbands.
Ah,
So when
Even
she
more common
went,
now. Yeah.
so she went to India and she introduced herself as Barbara O'Donnell. 4 years later, I went to India and I had a nice time and everything. And Erich came up to me and said, what is your name? And I said, Jay Shauer. He goes, huh. And he walked away. And a couple days later, he came to me and said, tell me your name again. I go, Jay Shauer. He goes, okay. And a day or two later, he took me by the arm and said, come with me. And we walked to his little room near on the porch of Mondeley Hall area. And he had a little room and a bed and a table, very simple. And he opened the door and pointed to his door jamb, the board that holds the door. And he pointed, and I looked up, and there had been written, Barbara O'Donnell, husband Jay, some date 1980. What, 80, right.
Yeah, it was like September 10th,
The day you
1980.
were there. He said, do you know this woman? Yes, that's my wife. She said, did she tell you to come as soon as you can? And I said, yes, she did. He said, is this as soon as you could come?
oh my God. Dilsha, do you have a question?
Yes, a quick one. Barbara, you mentioned about the panic attacks that you were facing. How did those go away? And if you can throw some light on that, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Once I encountered Baba, There was a kind of an emotional healing that took place. I think in a way, those panic attacks were meant to kind of propel me toward Baba. But I have to say they did not go away entirely. Over the years, I would occasionally have them, and I had residual phobias about funny things like movie theaters. I would have to force myself to go into them. With those first meetings that we went to in Atlanta, there was one time we got to the meeting early before the doors were open. There was a bookstore across the street. And I was prowling around among the books and came across one called Stop Running Scared. And I opened it up, and it was a whole set of stories of people with phobias, and in particular, agoraphobia and panic attacks. And I had not yet even seen the word anxiety disorder or panic attacks. And I'm standing there reading this book, seeing what people's lives look like if they totally let that take over. There were people who like lived in their bedrooms for 35 years with people bringing the meals and they wouldn't come out of the room. And I saw that and I thought, I'm not doing that one. I don't care how uncomfortable and weird it is, or how many, of these kind of episodes I have. I'm going out into the world. I'm just going to face it and push through. And then actually I encountered my yoga teacher, Anna Costa, and I was living in California at that point. It was years later, but still I was prone to anxiety that way. And she had us in some pose, folded over, head down, just forward bend, simple forward bend, and said, this pose relieves anxiety. And I felt all of a sudden the kind of like weight, the kind of load of anxiety that I always carried around, just even knowing about Baba and loving him. I just had this neurological nature. And when she said those words, I stood up and it was gone. And that's what made me into a yoga teacher. I thought, I want this for everyone. Everyone who's going through life living this way deserves to know that there's something that actually can affect them and help them to internally normalize their reactions to things. And that's when I decided to become a yoga teacher. But it didn't go away automatically. It was much, much better. And but I still had to really make decisions, like tough decisions about things I was going to face, even though it would stir up a lot of nervousness and anxiety in me. So even that first trip to India, that was like a year after I was at my lowest point, really, really helpless in Georgia. That was like a year later. And it's one of the reasons why I was so shy there too, was that I doubted myself a lot. And I got off the plane in London at this halfway point and thought, what am I doing? I don't even like going outside the door of my house. And here I am going across to the other side of the world. I should go back home. And then I thought, no, I'm just going to keep going forward. And so, yeah, that was part of Baba's interaction with me was, with a panic attack, it feels like everything.
You got to fill in the rest, and the rest of the story is she's feeling weird in London and everything, and thinks, well, I'll just go on. And they come to her and say, oh, I'm sorry, there's a problem. Can you please sit in first class? So she went first class, London to Bombay.
Well,
and then when she got to Bombay, she stayed with some friends of ours that we knew, and they have an apartment in Bombay, and she went to that apartment and she was feeling weird and like, I don't know what's going on and stuff like that. They bring her into the apartment and close the front door, and hanging from the back of the front door is a big picture of Swami Muktananda. And they don't follow Swami Muktananda. They just have this picture on the back of the door. So it was just meant to be. There's so many wonderful things that Baba did to make Barbara comfortable.
Well,
does that answer the question too? Is that an adequate question, Dishad?
Are you happy with the answers? Okay. I would like to say something personal to Barbara.
Yes, sir.
The more I see you talk, the more I'm reminded of Money Auntie. I don't know why. First of all, the outfit that you have is designed very similar to what she used to wear. You have this naughty expression on your face. And it is so touching. Touching is the word, you know, that after a long time, I see someone like Money in action kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And with Jay, there are a few parallels in his and my life, so I can narrate to both of y'all in very many ways. Now, unfortunately,
But Sam, who do I remind you of?
I'm sorry.
Who do I remind you of? I think obviously probably one of Baba's monkeys.
Jay, I would like to request you to pick up your guitar and do the On the Wings of the Dove. And with that, we could end the program if it's all right with everybody. Or if you want to continue further, go ahead.
Is that, I'm doing it.
Yeah, okay. So we'll end it with the Wings of Dove. Yeah.
Noah had drifted on the sea many days. He searched for land in various ways. Troubles he had some, but he was not forgotten. God sent down his love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sent his pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove. Jesus went down to the river that day. He was baptized the usual way. And when it was done, God blessed his son. He sent down his love on the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove. He sent his pure, sweet love, a sign from above, on the wings of a dove. Trouble surrounds us. When evil comes, the body grows weak, and the spirit grows numb. When these things beset us, he does not forget us. He sends down his love on the wings of a dove, On the wings of a snow white dove, he sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above. On the wings of a dove, on the wings of a snow white dove, he sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above. On the wings of a dove.
Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba.
This is one of the nicest meetings we've had in a long, long time. This is where the hearts have spoken. It's not our words. Our hearts have spoken to each other. All I'm looking forward to is picking up the pair of you somewhere on the hill near the Samadhi someday and give you both a very tight hug in Baba's name. Jai
Jai
Baba.
Baba's
Hey,
name.
Baba.
Okay. I need someone to do an aarti. Would Barbara or you do any aarti that you please, and we can. Would you like to do that?
I don't think I can right now, Sam. I'm sorry.
Okay. Barbara, would you?
I'm not sure, are you requesting one of the prayers or?
Aarti, either the Australian aarti or the American aarti. Or...
You don't want to hear me sing.
Well, let me tell you something. We've had the worst before, so as long as you do it from your heart, that's all that matters, Barbara.
Actually, Sam, could I read a poem from Rabindranath Tagore that I had I came across when we were still coming to Baba, and I called Jay in the middle of the day and said, you have to listen to this poem.
Okay.
So to me, it is life, loving Baba after his passing, coming to know him after his physical form was gone, which would have seemed like the end of the story. But if you wouldn't mind, I would really love to read this.
Sure.
So it is called, If It Is Not My Portion. If it is not my portion to meet thee in this my life, then let me ever feel that I have missed thy sight. Let me not forget for a moment. Let me carry the pangs of this sorrow in my dreams and in my wakeful hours. As my days pass in the crowded market of this world, and my hands grow full with the daily profits, let me ever feel that I have gained nothing. Let me not forget for a moment. Let me carry the pangs of this sorrow in my dreams and in my wakeful hours. When I sit by the roadside, tired and panting, when I spread my bed low in the dust, let me ever feel that the long journey is still before me. Let me not forget for a moment. Let me carry the pangs of this sorrow in my dreams and in my wakeful hours. When my rooms have been decked out and the flutes sound and the laughter there is loud, let me ever feel that I have not invited thee to my house. Let me not forget for a moment. Let me carry the pangs of this sorrow in my dreams and in my wakeful hours.
And Sam, I'll sing your arty for you too. I'm okay now. I'll do the Australian arty.
Okay.
I will mangle it, but it's better than nothing. Oh, glorious, eternal, ancient one, your face is a bright, transcendental sun. Lighten this dark world and the tears I weep. My heart may I give to you to keep. Creator, yet creationless you are. Truth on truth's body, divine avatar. Who through compassion the three worlds maintain. Destroy this ignorance which light sustains. These five lights are the whirling spokes of breath of the world's wheel that bears me into death. Unless you who are infinitely kind break the wheel's hub which is conditioned mind. This incense is my love, these fruits my art, which to please you I have shaped from my heart. Accept them as you would a simple flower that has no use beyond its shining hour. You are myself, I sing to you in praise, and beg your love to bear me through the days, till you, the ever-living perfect one, illume my darkness with your shining sun. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Jai Baba, everybody.
Hey, Baba.
Is Mayor around? Mayor Darwala, are you around? No. Well, she is the one who prompted to get Jay and Barbara on this program today. So thank you very much to her. I will call her up and thank her separately. Jay and Barbara, thank you ever so much.
Thank you for inviting us. It is very kind.
Jay, this is
Yes.
Ram Nuri.
Yeah,
If you run into my buddy, John Foreman, say Jai Baba to him, and Freeney.
I will do that. They are wonderful people.
I know. And he's a very good friend of me. He's very dear to me.
You are a lucky man to have such a friend.
Oh, don't let him know that.
Sam?
Haji.
Have you all been meeting in Bombay? Are you able to have meetings, or we haven't met very much in Nashville for the past 2 years. People have been sort of cautious, so our regular meetings are no longer taking place here.
We
Doing Zoom stuff, lots of Zoom stuff.
Zoom stuff.
Yeah, even here we haven't started the actual meeting as such.
In person, yeah.
But quite a few of us sneak in quietly and, you know, meet and greet. And well, Jimmy Khan wants to say something.
Yeah, this is the first couple in my 60 years of being a Meher Baba lover that's called Jai Baba.
Everybody gets the joke. Just not us.
Jai Baba to both of you. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, Jim.
Yeah.
Okay, since we are on this topic, do you really know the significance of Jai Baba?
No.
Airaj Jasawala had explained once in the Mandli Hall, and it's registered very deeply in my head. We just use it very casually, like a greeting, you know, good morning, good evening, Jai Baba to everyone. So he says that may be one part of it, The second thing is you are greeting the Baba that is residing in the other person's heart. When you say Jai Baba, you are greeting the Baba who's residing in the other person's heart. And the point number 3 and the most important point is Jai Baba. Jai means victory in Hindi. Sorry. And he says, Baba can be victorious only when I am the victor and the vanquished, you know. When your ego is vanquished, then the real Jai Baba comes in, you know. So that is the essence of your names, okay? Now don't make me talk too much, otherwise I'll start weeping now. Go ahead.
Jay, you remind me of Karl Moller. Have you heard of him?
Say it again, please.
You remind me of Karl Moller.
Carl
Moller.
Muller,
Muller.
Carl Muller,
Yeah,
Carl and Irma. Yeah.
it's the German heritage. It comes out whether you like it or not.
Okay, we loved it. Thank you. We really had a good time today.
I am
Thank
glad
you.
you did.
Both
Thank
of
you very much.
Both
I'm
of
so
you.
grateful to Baba for arranging this lovely meeting today. Ever so grateful. Janice, now your final concluding talk.
Yes,
Listen to this. These are the words of wisdom.
Yes,
You know, the pearls. Go ahead.
always pay attention to your tech person.
Right.
you're the whiz kid, right? You said I'm a techie guy, so you know more
Yeah.
than me. Yes. So indeed an amazing session. Indeed, such a beautiful session. Thank you, Baba, for that. And thank you, Baba, and you all for joining us today. See you again next week. And till then, stay safe. Take care. Baba Nigepan.
Jai Baba.
Avtar Meher Baba ki jai. Avtar Meher Baba ki jai.
Ki jai.
Avtar Meher Baba
Meher
ki
Baba
jai.
ki jai.
Hi, Baba, everyone. Take Baba with you and keep him with you. Stay happy with Baba. Stay happy with Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Okay, Janice, close the shop, please.
Yes. Jai Meher Baba.
Jai.